Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're really plunging headfirst into something pretty profound, I think. It's this destructive psychological paradox that just seems to haunt relationships. And we're not just talking about, actual cheating or betrayal by action. We're talking about something quieter, almost more insidious, the betrayal of fantasy.
Yeah.
Why is it that people, even people in really deep, committed relationships, start convincing themselves that happiness or fulfillment or real passion, it lies somewhere else?
Right.
Outside of what they already have.
Right.
That little voice just whispering, there must be something better out there. Why?
Well, that whisper, as you call it, it's more than just passing doubt, isn't it? It's basically the ultimate relationship poison because it completely distracts you from nurturing the reality you're actually living in.
Okay.
So our mission today really is to take a proper deep dive into this whole grass is greener syndrome. But we're going to look at it through a pretty unique lens, I'd say. Sophisticated, strategic. We're blending insights from relationship psychology, naturally, but also with the brutal, pragmatic realism of Machiavellian philosophy. The art of power, strategy, control.
Machiavelli. Interesting.
And connecting that to some unsettling truths that come out of criminology, specifically the study of novelty, risk, and this pull towards forbidden desire.
Wow. Okay. So psychology, Machiavelli, and criminology. That's quite a mix. We've definitely stacked up some extraordinary sources here. We'll be using Machiavelli's raw insights, his analysis of state collapse, loyalty, power, and combining that with the ruthless social wisdom of Ninon de Lyclos, the 17th century French philosopher courtesan. She specialized in the long-term maintenance of desire and fascination.
Exactly. And the goal for you listening isn't just to understand the problem, though that's important. It's really to arm you with a strategy.
A strategy.
Okay. You absolutely must understand the poisons that actively destroy trust and attraction. Things like comparison, boredom, unchecked fantasy. You need to understand them so you can extract the antidote, the sort of Machiavellian antidote, which is the strategic art of fiercely nurturing what you have, but, and this is key, simultaneously ensuring you keep mystery alive. It's about channeling your deepest, maybe even your most dangerous instincts.
Like the craving for risk.
Exactly. The craving for risk, the pull of the forbidden, channeling that back into the relationship, transforming you into the kind of man who is endlessly fascinating, fundamentally unconquerable.
Okay, let's dive in. Segment 1, the psychology of illusion, why desire dies. Where does this all begin?
Right, let's unpack this, starting right where the trouble usually begins, inside the mind.
Okay.
The sources are really clear on this. The grass is greener thing. It doesn't start with a faulty partner. It starts with a faulty internal mechanism.
Comparison.
That feels fundamental, almost primal. It is. It's an ancient human instinct for measurement, right? But in the modern world, it's become, profoundly toxic.
How so? Toxic in what way?
Well, think about it. Historically, measuring your crops against the neighbors or your fighting strength against another tribe, that was essential for survival, for improvement. Made sense.
Sure.
But today, the object of comparison is completely divorced from reality most of the time. We're comparing our own behind-the-scenes struggles.
Messy stuff.
Yeah, the financial stress, the dirty dishes, the difficult, vulnerable conversations we actually have. We compare that reality with the curated perfection, the highlight reels everyone else puts out there online.
The Instagram effect.
Precisely. That's the core toxicity right there. And there's a term for it in psychology. Upward comparison.
Upward comparison.
Meaning you're constantly looking at someone else who you perceive as better off. Maybe their relationship looks like a permanent vacation, or their partner seems effortlessly devoted online. And you look at that and you're left feeling profoundly inadequate.
And
that inadequacy immediately poisons how you see your own partner, your own relationship. It sets an impossible standard because you're filtering out all the messy reality of the other relationship while being painfully aware of every single flaw in your own.
It's an illusion stacked against reality.
Exactly. And this is where Machiavelli's brutal realism offers a necessary correction. He spent so much time warning rulers. Never measure yourself or your kingdom against illusions.
Right. Don't compare your real state to some mythical utopia.
Precisely. Because a prince who does that, who compares his real, functional, maybe imperfect state to some idealized fantasy, He's setting himself up for failure, rebellion even. He loses his grip on the necessary, sometimes ugly reality of just governing.
Okay, I see the parallel.
The application to love is direct. A man who measures his real, imperfect, but maybe loyal partner against some fantasy version of other women, whether seen on a screen or just conjured up in his own restless mind, he sacrifices the ability to cherish what's actually tangible, what's real.
Because the illusion always wins.
The illusion, yeah, because it's unburdened by reality. It always wins in that comparison. And that ensures he loses the capacity to nurture his actual life, his actual relationship.
Wow, that's potent. The illusion blinds you. Okay, so moving past external comparison, what's the next poison the sources identify?
The next deadly one is familiarity, which, if you're not careful, inevitably leads to boredom.
Familiarity breeds contempt, as they say, or just boredom.
Often boredom first, which can curdle into contempt later. And this is rooted in just pure biological reality. The brain normalizes things. Even the extraordinary becomes ordinary over time.
The honeymoon phase ending.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That neurochemical fireworks display of new love, the dopamine rush, the norepinephrine, it naturally settles down. It shifts into a quieter, more sustained pattern of attachment, more oxytocin, less adrenaline.
Which is healthy, presumably. Stable?
Healthy, stable, necessary for long-term bonding. But here's the fatal error, the tragic mistake so many men make. They interpret that natural settling, that shift from, say, fire to warmth, as the loss of love itself.
Confusing comfort with indifference.
Precisely. They confuse the fading of the butterflies, which is totally normal, with the fading of passion, which is actually optional, something you can maintain. Their minds start to panic. Oh no, the magic is gone.
And they think
they have to seek novelty elsewhere, maybe a new person, just to recapture that initial unsustainable biochemical rush. It shows a really deep misunderstanding of how matured desire actually functions.
So how does Machiavelli address this fading of the initial awe?
Well, the Machiavellian principle that counters this is what we could call the rule of awe.
Rule of awe, okay.
Machiavelli argued a ruler has to constantly renew the awe and attention of his subjects. He can't just be overly generous or completely predictable. If he is, his generosity starts being seen as an entitlement, not a gift.
Right, taken for granted.
Exactly. His power needs to be tempered with calculated unpredictability. Maybe a sudden act of surprising mercy, or perhaps a display of necessary ruthlessness where none was expected. The key is the state or the ruler must never become just comfortable wallpaper. You have to keep them slightly on their toes.
Okay, so applying that to love.
Applied to love, it means you must keep mystery alive. Your partner shouldn't be able to predict every single emotional response, every Friday night plan, every opinion you hold. If the relationship only offers routine comfort, day in, day out, that comfort eventually curdles into indifference.
The spark dies.
The spark dies. And what's fascinating is how this links directly to the criminal mind's hunger.
How so? That seems like a leap.
Well, criminology shows that individuals who are prone to thrill-seeking often experience really high levels of boredom when the stimulus drops off. They need that edge. If a relationship offers only stability, only comfort, that sort of instinctual hunger for risk and novelty starts pushing the mind to seek stimulation elsewhere.
Whether through fantasy.
Or actual transgression. Yeah, boredom isn't passive in this context. It's an active catalyst. It pushes you to seek external novelty.
And that search for external novelty, that leads us right to the next point, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The pull of idealization.
Absolutely. As humans, we are just masters at projecting fantasies onto the unknown, that random stranger across the room. Suddenly, in our minds, they become the perfect embodiment of passion or understanding or challenge, whatever we feel is missing.
We fill in the blanks with perfection.
We fill in the blanks with perfection, and the sources draw this powerful, almost disturbing parallel with high-stakes crime again.
How does that work?
Well, the criminal mind often thrives on this kind of projection. The imagined prize, the potential wealth from the heist, the flawless execution, the escape, it's always far more intoxicating than the messy, difficult, dangerous reality of the actual event.
Right. The fantasy is cleaner.
Much cleaner. Likewise, the man projects a perfect, frictionless fantasy onto the unknown person, completely forgetting that the stranger carries their own massive baggage, their own flaws, their own capacity for becoming routine eventually.
So when you compare a real three-dimensional partner to a flat, perfect fantasy,
the fantasy always wins until, of course, it gets ruthlessly tested by reality should you actually pursue it.
but the sources say there's something even deeper going on here, right?
Yeah.
That this grass is greener thing isn't always even about the partner.
That's the deepest root and probably the most challenging truth for anyone listening. Often this pursuit isn't really about the partner at all. It's about internal dissatisfaction. It's about the self.
Meaning,
Meaning insecure, restless, or unfulfilled individuals project their own lack of fulfillment outward. They operate under this delusion. If I just had a better partner, a newer partner, then I'd finally be happy. Then I'd be whole.
they're looking for an external solution to an internal problem.
Exactly, and the criminology parallel here is profound, and we really need to talk about it. Many crimes, especially those not driven by basic survival needs, are committed as an attempt to escape the self.
Escape the self. Like how?
Think of the compulsive gambler trying to escape his own emptiness or anxiety through the thrill. Or the white-collar criminal trying to escape a feeling of insignificance by taking massive, ego-boosting risks. Chasing new partners can be exactly the same thing. It's an attempt to escape one's own core emptiness, one's own restlessness.
But you can't escape yourself.
You can't escape yourself. The self is portable. You bring your dissatisfaction, your inability to sit still, your fears. You bring it all with you wherever you go into every new relationship.
Machiavelli talked about this too, didn't he?
Yeah.
About self-mastery.
Directly. When discussing the necessary qualities of a prince, he was clear. A man must master himself before he can even attempt to master others or his state. If you cannot confront your own discontent, your own fear of intimacy, your own internal restlessness, you will never hold love successfully. It doesn't matter how many partners you discard and replace.
And this whole cycle, this blaming the partner, it's protected somehow.
Yeah, by a very sophisticated defense mechanism of illusion. Psychologically, it's just easier to blame the relationship. It's stale, it's not enough, she's changed, than it is to face the painful personal flaws.
Like what?
Like, I don't know how to sustain vulnerability, or I'm actually afraid of true intimacy, or I'm terrified of real commitment. Blaming the partner is a form of self-deception. It protects the ego from painful but necessary self-truth.
That sounds like a classic Machiavellian trap, lying to yourself about the real cause of your unhappiness.
It is. It's the first step towards self-destruction, in love or in politics. Machiavelli saw self-deception as the most dangerous liability for any ruler. A man who blames his external circumstances for his internal failures is doomed to repeat them. He'll lose everything eventually, carrying the same self-wounds into every new venture, every new relationship.
So what's the antidote, if self-deception is the poison?
The antidote has to be consciously chosen. It's self-mastery. It's gratitude for what you have. It's patience. These are disciplines, really. They force you to stop that toxic comparison cycle and focus your energy on cultivating the reality you actually possess, watering your own grass, so to speak.
Okay, so we've established the internal psychological mess. Comparison, boredom, self-dissatisfaction.
Yeah.
Now let's shift gears. Segment 2. The criminal nature of desire, why we crave the forbidden.
Right. Now we get into the raw, almost dangerous instincts that can hijack desire and lead people towards seeking the forbidden. And this is where the criminal mind offers some really fascinating, maybe uncomfortable insights into human motivation. Why do we risk stability for the high of something new?
Yeah, why do we?
It starts with understanding love as a gamble, the sheer intoxication of risk.
Love is a gamble.
Yeah. Criminology gives us tons of evidence that many crimes aren't rational acts based on need. They're committed purely for the cognitive, the emotional thrill of the risk itself, independent of financial need or anything logical.
The transgression is the drug.
The transgression is the drug.
Yeah.
That moment of potential exposure, the adrenaline rush of doing something forbidden, stepping over the line, that's the payoff for some people.
Okay, so how does that relate to relationships settling down?
Well, when romance settles into that comfortable familiarity we talked about, the brain can experience a kind of stimulus deficit. It misses the highs. And the criminal mind within us, that thrill-seeking part, starts whispering, risk what you have, go for the possibility of a greater high. It's a deep-seated psychological imperative, really, seeking the excitement of danger and potential gain.
But Machiavelli talked about risk being good, didn't he? Fortune favors the daring.
And there's the profound paradox. You've hit it. It needs to be managed strategically. Machiavelli did observe that fortune favors those who dare. In statecraft, in war, audacious risks. A bold military maneuver, a clever diplomatic betrayal. That kind of daring can win you a kingdom.
But in love?
But in love, that same daring, that same instinct for transgression, for risking it all, that will destroy the stability, the trust, the very thing you claim to value. It's catastrophic.
So you can't act like a conquering prince in your relationship.
Not if you want it to last, no. Therefore, the strategic antidote is absolutely crucial. You have to find ways to inject novelty, unpredictability, and healthy play back into the relationship itself.
To satisfy that craving.
Exactly, to satisfy that intrinsic craving for risk and novelty internally, preventing the mind from seeking that same addictive thrill in external betrayal. You feed the beast within the castle walls so it doesn't go hunting outside.
Okay, but practically, what does injecting novelty look like? You can't just mean, buying flowers on a random Tuesday, right? That becomes predictable too.
No, you're right. It needs to be more structural than that. Real novelty is rooted in the unpredictable deployment of yourself.
Of yourself. How?
It means maybe suddenly changing your routine in a noticeable way. Displaying unexpected competence in a new area she hasn't seen before. Maybe you learn an instrument or master a complex skill. Planning a secret trip where she genuinely doesn't know the destination until you arrive.
Keeping her guessing.
In a positive way, yes. It's about being a slightly different man on Tuesday than you were on Monday. That kind of unpredictability satisfies the mind's hunger for the new without requiring you to change partners. You become the source of novelty yourself.
Okay, that makes sense. And that feeds directly into this classic idea of the allure of forbidden fruit and scarcity, doesn't it? Why does a forbidden kiss feel so much more intoxicating than one that's freely given?
It's pure psychology baked into us. The human psyche assigns exponential value to what it cannot easily possess. Scarcity is the engine of desire. It's fundamental economics applied to emotion.
So a forbidden object.
A forbidden object, a stolen jewel, a limited edition anything.
Yep.
It glitters brighter precisely because it's rare, because it requires risk or effort to acquire. The temptation isn't necessarily that the forbidden partner is objectively better. It's that the associated barriers, the risk, the secrecy, the difficulty, make them psychologically more valuable.
The struggle increases the perceived worth.
Immensely. And Machiavelli formalized this in governance, remember. He advised rulers never to give their subjects complete, utter satisfaction. Keep them, instead, always longing for a bit more. A promise partially delivered, a reward always slightly delayed, keeps them engaged, keeps them striving.
Okay, so apply that ruthless principle to seduction.
If your partner feels she has entirely conquered you, if she knows every single thought, has access to you 24/7, feels she possesses you wholly, mind, body, and soul, her attraction will weaken. It's almost inevitable. The conquest is complete, the hunt is over, and the perceived value dissipates.
So, to maintain desire, you need to remain slightly out of reach. Is that right?
Slightly out of reach, yes, but in a healthy, self-possessed way. It's not about playing games cruelly. It's about ensuring there's always another layer of you, another ambition she doesn't fully grasp yet, another intellectual interest you're pursuing, another depth she hasn't fully unpacked.
So you become the mystery again.
You become the forbidden fruit within the relationship itself. It's not about cruelty, it's about complexity. If she views you as a man who is continuously mastering himself, cultivating new inner worlds she can't immediately access or predict, she will maintain a higher level of desire for you than if you were just endlessly available and fully solved.
Like an open book.
Exactly. Don't be an open book. Be a fascinating novel with chapters she hasn't read yet.
This ties into the next point. Novelty addiction and the thrill of transgression. Criminology shows repeat offenders often get addicted to the rush.
Right, yeah. Addicted to the rush of doing something new, something transgressive, breaking the rules. In love, men often make that critical error. They mistake familiarity for failure. They think the relationship is dying because it's comfortable.
And so they chase the end of novelty.
They chase the end of novelty by seeking replacement partners. They're looking for that initial high again and again. But the strategic man, the one who understands this dynamic, realizes that novelty isn't an external resource you find in new people. It's an internal resource. It has to be created within the existing dynamic.
Through self-reinvention.
Through self-reinvention, exactly. Cultivating competence, depth, things that keep you dynamic. It might require shifting your persona, slightly alternating between warmth and a bit of coolness, maybe? Becoming a more mysterious, layered figure, not just a static monument of predictable comfort.
And part of that involves boundaries, you mentioned. Transgression and boundaries.
Yes. Humans are instinctively drawn to testing and challenging boundaries. It's part of how we understand the world and each other. A partner might, subtly or not so subtly, desire the man who maintains a strong frame, who resists her just enough, more than the one who just surrenders too quickly to every demand or whim. Because, as Machiavelli wrote, men admire what they cannot completely control. A man who maintains healthy boundaries, who has his own dedicated personal time, who isn't emotionally naked and vulnerable at all moments, who can say no firmly when needed, he commands more longing and, crucially, more respect.
It's the paradox of restraint again.
It is. To intensify desire, you sometimes have to strategically restrain your affection, your availability. If you remove all resistance, all boundaries, you inadvertently remove the challenge. And without challenge, attraction can really struggle. This strategic restraint ensures her desire is sharpened, honed, not dulled by overexposure.
Okay, that concept of restraint, that's a perfect segue into segment 3. This is where Ninon de Lenclos comes in with perhaps the most counterintuitive piece of wisdom in all our sources.
Ah, yes. Ninon. Her observation flies directly in the face of almost all conventional modern relationship advice, which tends to stress complete constant availability, radical transparency.
Right. So what does she say?
Her rule is, I think, the absolute foundation of long-term fascination. She said, love never dies of starvation, but of indigestion.
Wow. Okay. Love never dies of starvation, but of indigestion. Let that sink in.
That single sentence, honestly, holds more strategic power than 1,000 books on vulnerability and constant reassurance. Love, in her vast experience observing the human heart, collapses under the suffocating weight of excessive attention and closeness, not merely from absence alone.
Okay, let's spend some real time on this indulgence trap. The idea that giving too much kills love.
Yes. Think about the man who is perpetually messaging, endlessly available, gives this suffocating level of affection. He genuinely believes he's securing his partner's love through reassurance, through constant presence. See how much I love you? I'm always here.
He thinks he's being devoted?
He thinks he's being devoted, but the sources argue he's actually doing the opposite. He is smothering her attraction. He's killing the necessary mystery. He's ensuring the chase is completely over. She's caught him, digested him, and now she's full.
Indigestion.
Emotional indigestion. And consider the parallel in criminology again with greed. We touched on it earlier.
Yeah.
The career criminal often gets caught because they get greedy, right?
Yeah.
They take too much too often. They become predictable in their excess.
Okay.
Likewise, the lover who gives endless praise that starts to feel meaningless, endless attention that feels clingy, constant presence that feels suffocating, he becomes predictable, excessive. And eventually, the source warns, he can even become despised for his lack of self-possession, his lack of his own center. Desire needs space to breathe. Overindulgence suffocates it completely.
Okay, but I have to push back here a bit.
Yeah.
Because modern relationship gurus, therapists even, would likely say that deliberately withholding affection or creating distance, isn't that just cruel or manipulative? How do we distinguish this strategic restraint you're talking about from genuine emotional unavailability or just neglect?
That is a critical distinction, and it's absolutely vital to get this right. Neglect stems from indifference or selfishness or inability to connect. Strategic restraint or controlled distance, as Ninon practiced it, stems from self-possession and purpose.
Okay, explain that difference. Purpose versus indifference.
You are not withholding affection to punish her or to play mind games. You are prioritizing your own goals, your own inner world, your own self-mastery. When you pull back slightly, it must be because you are genuinely focused elsewhere deep in a project, pursuing a demanding goal, mastering a skill, something that actually makes you more fascinating, not less. It's not about being cold, it's about having your own gravitational center.
So it's authentic distance based on your own life, not manufactured distance just to create anxiety.
Precisely. If it's just a game, she'll likely sense that, and it will feel manipulative. If it's rooted in your genuine pursuit of purpose and self-development, it commands respect.
Okay, so this is about avoiding emotional indigestion, giving her more affection, more reassurance, more presence than she can healthily consume or process. And this is where the mechanism of longing gets destroyed.
Exactly. A love that never feels that sharp, maybe even slightly painful hunger of abscess. It loses its fire. It becomes dull, lukewarm, comfortable maybe, but not passionate.
And Machiavelli's idea fits here too.
Perfectly. His concept of controlled need. A ruler needs to keep his subjects in a balanced state, never fully, completely satisfied, because that breeds complacency and indifference, but also never completely starved, because that breeds desperate rebellion.
Find the middle ground.
Find the middle ground. In love, a partner who never misses her man, who never feels that pang of his absence, cannot burn with longing for his return. Therefore, the strategic man learns to create moments of, well, strategic distance, pulling back just enough, just long enough to allow that hunger to awaken. which makes the inevitable reunion, the affection when it is given, feel intoxicating and deeply appreciated again.
This just demolishes that common self-deception we talked about earlier. The belief that if I just give her more love, shower her with more attention, she'll have to love me more.
That belief is the road to emotional servitude, not mutual desire. The reality, according to Ninon and Machiavelli, is that too much availability kills mystery, and too much indiscriminate giving kills gratitude. Affection becomes expected, not cherished.
So Ninon's wisdom is about administering affection in measured doses, like medicine, almost.
In a way, yes. The goal isn't to create perpetual anxiety or insecurity, not at all. It's about establishing a healthy ebb and flow, a rhythm where your presence is deeply valued because your absence has been felt, even just slightly. Your focus elsewhere highlights the value of your focus when it returns to her.
Okay, let's talk about Ninon's actual practice, her strategic use of distance and mystery. What did she actually advise people to do?
Well, she advised both men and women never to give their full emotional or physical being completely to their partner. Always hold something back, not in a deceptive way, but in a self-possessed way.
How does she use distance?
She utilized controlled distance, maybe disappearing for short periods to focus intensely on her intellectual pursuits or her salon, withholding certain intimate details, perhaps, focusing heavily on her own rich internal life and external projects. The goal was to intentionally create this powerful cycle. Longing, followed by deep reward when she chose to grant her attention again.
She understood that the modern obsession with radical honesty, telling everything, can actually kill fascination.
Absolutely. If a partner knows everything, every insecurity you have, every mundane thought that crosses your mind, every single detail of your past, all your future plans laid bare, where's the curiosity? Curiosity dies. And desire fundamentally requires curiosity. It needs something left to discover.
And Machiavelli backs this up from the perspective of power.
Completely. A ruler must never reveal all his cards. Full transparency, he argued, breeds contempt because it reduces the leader from a figure of authority and mystery to just a predictable peer, someone easily understood and potentially manipulated.
So for the listener,
the takeaway is, be fundamentally honest, yes. Build trust, but never be fully transparent. Leave parts of yourself, your deepest ambitions, maybe some of your anxieties, the complexities of your internal strategy for life, leave parts of that hidden. Not secrets necessarily, but depths she hasn't fully plumbed. So she remains hungry to solve you, hungry for the next discovery. It ensures the conquest is never, ever complete.
so the goal is this balance of nourishment. Not starvation, certainly, but definitely not indigestion.
Precisely. You give enough to deeply nourish the heart, to maintain security and trust. But you must withhold just enough of your innermost self, enough of your constant availability to keep her craving. Your affection, your attention, your physical presence, it must never, ever be allowed to become ordinary wallpaper in her life.
Master this law of starvation versus indigestion.
And her love will sharpen, her respect for you will deepen, because you demonstrate the strength to govern yourself, your time, and your own boundaries. That self-possession is incredibly attractive.
Okay, this leads us perfectly into the final and perhaps most strategic segment, segment 4. The secret tests of women Machiavellian survival.
Right. This is where things get really practical, maybe even a bit controversial for some. But the sources detail this universal, often unconscious, often instinctual reality. Women test men.
Tests. That sounds calculating.
It can sound that way, but it's important to understand these trials aren't necessarily conscious acts of malice. Often they're more like instinctive gauges, designed by evolution perhaps to measure strength, security, resilience, worthiness to lead, ability to protect.
Quality control, essentially.
In a way, yes. Instinctual quality control. And this is where strategic action, or the lack thereof, becomes absolutely critical for the long-term success, the long-term attraction in the relationship. We can actually use criminology's concept of stress testing and Machiavellian survival strategy to decode these trials.
And failing them.
Failing these secret tests kills respect and attraction faster than almost anything else. It's a major factor in why seemingly good relationships sometimes just fizzle out. The man failed tests he didn't even know he was taking.
Okay, let's detail them. The tests of strength and resilience. What's the first one?
The first big one is test 1. Emotional strength. You could call it stress testing. She might criticize you, provoke you, or express deep dissatisfaction, perhaps with a severity that seems out of proportion to the situation.
Okay, what's she really looking for when she does that?
She's testing your frame, your core stability. She wants to see, does he collapse under pressure? Is his character fragile? Does he become instantly reactive, defensive, whiny? Does he start begging for reassurance?
And the strategic response. The Machiavellian response.
Paramount. Never lose emotional control in that moment. Do not get drawn into a shouting match. Do not collapse emotionally. You must remain calm, anchored, unmovable in your self-possession, like a rock in a storm.
Why is that so important?
Because it demonstrates the authority and safety she is instinctively seeking, whether she knows it consciously or not. When she sees a man capable of withstanding external storms, including the emotional storms she might be creating in that moment, her attraction deepens. She feels safer.
Okay, but wait. If he never loses control, isn't that just teaching emotional repression? How can a man be authentic if he's always being strategically calm? Is he just supposed to bottle everything up?
That's the essential nuance again. It's a great question. We are talking about control under pressure, in the heat of the test. We are not talking about the repression of feelings entirely.
It's about timing and context.
Exactly. A strategic man recognizes the test dynamic. He chooses a measured, non-reactive response in the moment specifically to maintain his frame and demonstrate strength. He stays calm, but that doesn't mean the issue is ignored. He might address the underlying issue later, perhaps hours later when the emotional heat has dissipated, and they can have a constructive conversation.
So handle the test first, resolve the issue later.
Precisely. He prioritizes demonstrating safety and strength in the face of conflict. That's what builds respect. Repression just leads to an eventual explosion or passive aggression. Strategic calmness, followed by measured resolution later, leads to respect and solves the problem.
Okay, what's the next test? Test 2, boundaries. The sources call it manipulation testing.
Yes. This is where she might push with small, perhaps slightly unreasonable demands, or use subtle guilt trips, just to gauge if the man is willing to surrender everything, all his self-interest, all his boundaries, just to keep her happy or avoid conflict.
And this links back to Machiavelli, too.
Directly. It echoes his stern warning that excessive generosity, or perhaps we could say excessive appeasement, breeds contempt. A prince who lets his subjects walk all over him, who yields every resource without restraint, loses power and respect very quickly.
So the man who cancels all his plans...
The man who cancels his important plans at the last minute, abandons his friends, changes his core goals just to appease her whims. He is failing this test. He's losing power and ultimately respect. The strategic response is learning to say no, firmly but kindly, without anger, without apology, just a clear boundary.
And when she sees he can't be manipulated.
When she realizes her man cannot be easily manipulated away from his core mission, his values, his own life, her respect sharpens because she knows he values himself enough to draw a line. That self-respect is magnetic.
Okay, moving on. The next set, tests of confidence and worth. What's test 3? Indifference or withdrawal pressure.
This is a classic. She acts cold, distant, maybe suddenly busy. She withdraws her warmth or attention. The test is, how does he react? Does his desire, or worse, his sense of self-worth, collapse in the face of this temporary rejection or perceived withdrawal?
What does the failing man do?
The desperate man chases. He starts texting constantly, calling, demanding to know what's wrong. Are you mad at me? He communicates desperation and a deep, fundamental need for her validation to feel okay about himself.
And the strategic response.
Remain composed, patient, intensely focused on your own pursuits, your own mission. Don't chase, don't beg. Your calmness communicates that powerful, attractive paradox. I deeply want you, but I fundamentally do not need you to complete me or validate my existence.
That's self-possession again.
It's central that self-possession creates magnetic attraction. Women are drawn to the man who chooses them freely, from a place of strength and wholeness, not the one whose emotional survival seems to depend entirely on them.
Okay. And then the one everyone dreads. Test 4. Jealousy, provocation testing.
Right. She might casually mention another man's competence or make a comparison or talk about an attractive colleague or friend just to see how he reacts. Will he become insecure, possessive, controlling, angry?
What's the Machiavellian take here?
Machiavelli explicitly warned rulers. Never appear threatened by rivals, real or imagined. It signals weakness. A man who collapses into insecurity or starts making controlling demands or gets hostile at the mere mention of another man, he appears fundamentally weak. He fails the test spectacularly.
So the strategic response is?
Remain utterly secure, confident, unthreatened. You can even acknowledge the external rival's success or appeal casually. Yeah, he seems like a smart guy, or that's great he got that promotion, without it diminishing your own self-value in the slightest.
By not collapsing.
By not collapsing, by remaining the calm center, the man confirms that he is the true prize. He's the anchor, which ironically usually increases her loyalty and her investment in him. She sees his high value because he isn't threatened by others.
Interesting. Okay, finally, the sources mention a hidden ongoing test. The final test of mystery and fascination.
Yes, this isn't a single event or argument. It's the ongoing subtle dynamic, her desire to fully solve him. We touched on this with Ninon. Once attraction starts to fade, curiosity often dies with it, and desire requires curiosity.
So she seeks to know every thought, every feeling.
She might probe, wanting to know everything, every memory, every plan, every insecurity. The moment she feels she has completely solved the puzzle, the moment she feels she knows him better than he knows himself, his fascination factor plummets. The mystery is gone.
And the Machiavellian survival tactic here.
Cultivate depth. Cultivate inner worlds that she cannot fully conquer or map out immediately. He must remain, to some degree, a mystery she longs to solve but never fully can. Always offering new facets of his personality, new skills he's developing, new intellectual challenges he's undertaking. Keep evolving.
So wrapping this up, the hidden logic behind all these tests. It's not about harming the man.
Generally, no. The underlying, often unconscious logic is about ensuring safety and quality control. Women test instinctually to discover, is he truly strong enough to lead, to protect, to be a reliable partner? Can he withstand manipulation and external pressure? Is he genuinely worthy of my deepest loyalty and investment?
And passing these tests.
Passing these trials consistently deepens attraction and respect. Failing them kills respect, and attraction often follows soon after. These tests are survival instincts playing out in the mating dance. The strategic man sees them not as attacks, but as necessary trials of worth. He uses them as opportunities to demonstrate unparalleled strength, calmness, boundaries, and depth.
While the man who doesn't understand.
The man who panics, who doesn't understand the dynamic, mistakes the test for cruelty or malice and reacts poorly, failing himself and the relationship. The man who employs strategy ensures he not only survives these inevitable tests, but actually thrives because of them, deepening the bond.
Okay, that brings us to the end. Let's wrap up.
Let's do it.
We have covered some massive, really strategic ground today. You started by identifying and hopefully learning how to escape that fantasy of the greener grass.
Rejecting those poisons of comparison, persistent boredom, and that external illusion.
Then we moved into how to channel those darker, maybe criminal instincts, the craving for novelty, for risk, how to channel that energy back into the relationship dynamic itself constructively.
And crucially, we really dug into the strategic lessons from Machiavelli and Ninon de Lenclos. The absolute necessity of self-governance, the strategic importance of restraint, the power of maintaining mystery, and the careful implementation of controlled distance.
It seems like the ultimate power in love, according to these sources, isn't found in betrayal or constantly seeking something new, or even in manipulation. It's in self-mastery.
Absolutely. It's the discipline to water your own garden, as you said, and the strategic wisdom to survive these necessary, often secret trials of intrigue that really govern long-term desire.
So the key takeaway for you listening, you now know that a woman's love isn't just given once and forever like a trophy. It's often tested, daily, secretly, endlessly, in subtle ways.
But if you can take that criminal mind's craving for novelty and risk, that energy, and channel it constructively into strategy, into self-discipline, into healthy restraint, you transcend being just the predictable nice guy. You become the man who is endlessly fascinating, the prize.
So we leave you with this final provocative thought, something to consider and maybe apply immediately in your own life. You have to ensure your affection, your presence, never becomes just ordinary.
So ask yourself this: what complex ambition, what new skill you could master, or what deep internal boundary have you allowed to become too ordinary, too predictable, too transparent to the person you love? Go find the mystery and the strength within yourself again, and in doing so, you will ensure her love never dies of indigestion.